I would like to welcome everyone to our April Legislative Committee meeting, and my partner in crime, Miss Gretchen Cleveland. Our hearts and condolences go out to her and her team. They have lost an employee, so our prayers and thoughts are with you and your
I
team.
appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it.
I know it's tough. It's tough. So we want to lift them up in positive prayers, the family and the staff that were connected to him. So, and then we have two new members. I would like to welcome Miss Farrah Burgess and Miss Tina Webb-Trotman. And I noticed that you guys are on. Welcome to the committee meeting. Would you like to say anything before we get rolling?
Hi, my name is.
Uh-oh, you froze up. There you are. You had frozen up for a moment.
Oh,
I see you, Miss
okay.
Farrah. There you go.
All right, I'm back. Okay. No, I was just saying thank you. And I'm just glad to be part of the legislative committee.
Well, we're
So,
excited to have you.
Thank you.
We've covered a lot of ground, so you're getting in at a great time. We're finishing up one session, and we're about to we'll go into a new one next January. So you're really getting in at a good time. So,
Okay.
well,
Thanks.
welcome. All right, Miss Tina, would you like to say anything?
Says that she sees her name, but she can't hear us.
Oh no. Oh no. Goodness. Okay. Well, welcome. We're glad you're here. So what we're going to do, oh, there you are. Hi, Tina. Hi.
I can't hear. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I can't hear, but hi, everybody. I'm Tina Webb-Trotman. Thank you. I don't know why I can't hear. Maybe I'll try to leave and come back in, but
Okay.
nice to be here. Nice to meet everybody. I am the Metro Manager with RSM, and I am in Columbus, Georgia, and this is my second year with GPHSA, and I am glad to be here today. So I'll see what my technical difficulty is. But thank you. I'm gonna try to leave and come back in. Maybe that'll
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. All right. Thank you so much. So we'll go ahead and get going in our agenda. We have Miss Susan Boatwright. She's going to bring us our legislative session update. It's just closed a week or so ago, so she's got a lot to go over. So Miss Susan, I'm going to turn the mic over to you and let you go. Do you want me to share it on my screen, or you just want to talk about it, or?
Oh, if you can share it, that'd be fantastic.
Okay.
I have it pulled up and I was going to try to toggle between the two, but if you can share it, that's awesome. While you're doing that, I'll just talk for a minute.
Okay.
So the legislative session, this to me is such a perfect example of it's not over till it's over. We were, and it is over, but up until really the last day, I would have guessed 3 or 4 of the bills we were tracking would definitely have passed. They passed the House, they passed the Senate. They were just waiting on the final vote, but they died. And so after all that we looked at and reviewed, and we will go over the document that I sent out, just because I think that'll be the easiest thing to kind of guide our conversation. But, you know, at the end of the day, we had one bill that we were tracking that related to human services employees and the work that we do that passed. And that was the postpartum bill. All of the other ones that we were tracking, and most of them looked like they were in line. Now, with the exception of the budgets. The budgets were the big news, and both of those passed, and we'll talk about those in a minute. But the so many of the others that I really thought were kind of a done deal did not pass, and that's the nature of the session. They just didn't get to them, and the day ended, and they were on the floor. just didn't get voted on. So we'll go over that, but to keep in mind that we were tracking several pieces of legislation.
Are you
and-
seeing it at all?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, because it's not showing on my end, so I don't, okay,
Sometimes when you're the presenter, it's hard to see both of them. So,
okay,
yeah, you have to choose.
okay.
So I'll share some information that's just, I think would be of interest. And again, the big news for us was the budget and the information that was in the budget. This session really was about trying to put some money and resources into DBHDD and mental health and therapeutic care. The majority of the legislation that passed was related to mental health and substance abuse resources and other things. And so you'll see in the budget some of the things that are related to the work we do, but they really ended up in DBHDD's budget. So of note, we have many legislators that retired, but there are 3 that have had pretty prominent positions. And so, Vicki, if you would scroll back up to the top, we'll just go through this document kind of blow by blow. Terry England, who was the House Appropriations Chair, very, very prominent position. He retired. He will not be seeking re-election. Senator Jeff Mullins, who was the Senate Rules Chair, and Representative Calvin Smyer, who was the Dean of the House. I can't remember when Calvin Smyer wasn't there since I have been interacting, which I mean, it hasn't been, I mean, it's probably been 10 years now, but he's been there that whole time. And so the 3 of them, plus many, many more who are retiring, will be missed, but I thought it was worth mentioning those 3. And so then the next thing is just some budget insights. And I took this information from multiple sources, the Voices Legislative Update and their weekly meetings, listening into those. I participate in the DHS weekly meetings and just researching information on the Capitol website. And then importantly, and you may not know this, but we have a former GPHSA member who I believe is maintaining her retired status, who was on the ground at the Capitol every day, Carol Christopher, and she just was the greatest resource to us. Was not an official lobbying. She is married to a legislator, but I was able to get a lot of insight and context from her. And I knew what was happening, at the minute it was happening. And she could go and look into some information for me. And so we want to, next session, maybe formalize that relationship a little bit. We've talked about having a lobbyist, which is great, but what we had, I think, was better. And so she has also expressed an interest in doing the Legislative Academy, being in charge of that process. And she's in a great position to, get some legislators to come in and talk to the group that goes through the Legislative Academy. So Rhonda and I are working through that now, but I'm very excited about that. And I just wanted to mention how helpful she was. We actually were texting at 9:30 last night. Neither one of us could tell what was going on about one piece of legislation from the way it was written. It wasn't one we were directly tracking, but we figured it out early this morning. And so it's just so helpful. If you see Carol, thank you. Thank her. All right. Overall budget insights is, of course, the $5,000 raise that is retroactive to July 1st, 2021, going through June 30th, 2022. So that raise will be given to staff in 2 ways. The monthly increase of $208. I think I have that right. Or the pay period increase is $416 per month, $208. You should see that on your paycheck Friday. Went into effect April 1st. The lump sum, as far as I know, is coming also on Friday. I don't have confirmation of that. That's what I have always been told. I haven't been told anything different, but I think a memo is coming out. So don't spend that money before you get it. If it doesn't come this week, it will probably come the next pay period. And the lump sum will be the difference in the pay raise going into effect for April, May, and June, which that will be what, 416 times 3. You can back that out of the $5,000, and that'll tell you what the pay raise is. If you could excuse me for just, oh, okay, sorry. My husband was waiting on something, but we got it taken care of. So then so the pay raise that you see on your check on Friday, okay, thank you. Lump sum bonus is scheduled for the end of the month pay period. Thank you, Darby. Thank you. We have gotten questions and I couldn't get a solid answer. It's very helpful. So the increase that you see on your paycheck on Friday, that will remain your new salary. So you won't get another increase July 1st, but they had to put it in both the retroactive FY22 and the FY23 budget. But it is still a $5,000 raise, but you get it for both years. The lump sum will shore up what you wouldn't have gotten in 2022. I also don't have any information in front of me that lays this out, but my understanding is that, it's about $416 for every month that you have worked since July 1st. So new employees may not, get the whole $5,000 because they weren't working every month of the fiscal year, July 1st through June 30th. Again, I don't have any solid information. I read this stuff and inferred it and have been operating from that and haven't heard anything different, but Darby may be able to clarify that for us as well. So that was the big news for us, is the pay increase. And then we'll touch on one other piece of legislation that talks about the your payout of your leave accrual when you retire will be paid by the retirement system and not by DFACS or DHS. That's not going to impact you in any way. It just will it'll help the divisions manage their budgets better because they won't have to factor in these unknown payouts for people who have accumulated a ton of leave. Same money will come to the person retiring. Also in the legislation is the ability to withdraw, I think, a week's worth of annual leave every year and just be paid for that rather than accrue it. And more information will be coming out about this, but all of this was wrapped up in this budget proposal that passed. The amended budget, of course, has been signed by the governor, and I believe the FY23 budget will be signed by the governor, if not already, anytime now. Okay, so in addition to that, we had $275,000 added for civil legal services for kinship care families. This just allows them some compensation for legal services. I don't know what that budget was to begin with, but I thought it was worth mentioning. If you fund something, that means there is support of that. And of significance for child welfare is the SAGs will receive a $20 per hour increase, moving them from $57 an hour to $77 an hour, which is nice because we need to retain our SAGs and we need to, we need people who are familiar with child welfare doing that work. Adult Medicaid additions. Now this is in the Department of Community Health budget. but it applies because we manage the adult Medicaid programs. So we had some money added to reimburse for a medical nutrition therapy, which is very important to elderly folks. And then I worked in ABD for years. And so I just remember the dental issues that ended up creating health issues for so many of my clients. And so I was really happy to see some funding added for dental extractions, which it's not a ton of money, but it is there for those situations where, you know, it's really creating a health issues with some dental work that's needed. And then the governor had recommended a $16 million increase for what is projected to be the future need of the adult Medicaid program. The 16 million was not added, but 5.71 million was added to try to manage what is anticipated to be increased caseloads as people just live longer and qualify for those services. And then so much was, like I said earlier, passed that related to mental health. Right off the cuff, it was easy to just add up 2 or 3 categories and come up with 12 million that was added to cover therapeutic and psychological services for Medicaid. And then there was multiple of other investments that were, I mean, millions and millions of dollars to try to better resource our mental health system and put some things in place that would allow people access to quality services and to have some that are more local. So I think that's it's a win for everybody, even though that is in DBHDD's budget. And then specifically for child welfare, protective services, I put all of this in here, although number one, I think just is money that moves from fees paid for marriage and divorce to move over to the Children's Trust Fund, which that funds a lot of the prevention work. So I just wanted to mention that because it's a little over $1 million for the prevention work. And then there was money added for services for at-risk girls. This was increased from what was, I think, originally requested. Then there was 1.5 million for a community action team pilot to address children who are in or at risk of entering foster care. I don't know much about this, but I found it very interesting and I wanted to mention it. And then if you've listened to any of Commissioner Brose's budget testimonies at any of the hearings, you knew about this autism project in Region 12. And then the 1 million added for autism respite care. One of our DHS former board members, and she may still be a board member, but I think she might have moved off of the board, Dr. Z, she's in the Statesboro area. She is working on an overlay of children who come into care who also have autism. And so trying to create some specialized services and education for foster parents and parents to prevent care if autism is part of what's going on with the child. And then there was some money added for CASA. We can move on, which is fairly typical. A lot of places get a little bit more money each time. It wasn't a significant amount. And then we can go down to the next page. And then of significance is 27.8 million added so that our providers get a 10% increase. And then there was some direction given on a budget amount that was already there to direct it toward, and again, it's therapeutic and preventive. You'll see that sort of nod to better resourcing some mental health services. And then the foster clothing allowance, which I don't think has been increased in a while, is being increased. So there's just some highlights that I thought you might be interested to know about. All of that passed with a budget from one of the departments. And then we'll take a look at the legislation we were tracking. So Senate Bill 370, this was the fostering care, fostering connection that we really thought was, I mean, it was kind of sailing through, not much going on. And then toward the end of the session, a very similar bill from the House. And the reason the House said they did this, and I don't know whether, I was wondering about it, but I don't know whether that is a thing or not, but that if funding and something's going to be put in the budget, then there has to be a House bill attached to it. That makes sense to me, but I'm just taking it at face value. The original legislation, which was a Senate bill, did not pass. So, but if you look at House Bill 424 that did pass, it is allowing contributions to foster care support organizations in a dollar for dollar. Instead of paying a Georgia income tax, you can get a tax credit dollar for dollar if you want to give to that program for the technical college or the University System of Georgia Foundation. A contribution in that way allows for a tax credit. The Fostering Connections legislation it was structured a little different. I got a question? Okay. But that is where the language from 370 sort of found its way and what it looks like. Then we go on to, and that went through. 424's made it, and it's awaiting the governor's signature. Then if you go to this, this legislation that Jonathan read, and it was, we had some concerns about the way it was written. I thought it might, I mean, I thought it had as good a chance as any of passing, but it did not pass. So it's gone. And by the way, all of this legislation was either newly introduced this session, or it came back to life from the 2021 session, because legislation rolls in a 2-year cycle. And so it truly, if it didn't pass, there's no chance for it to come back up next year. It would have to be reintroduced as another bill. So that we may see again, we may not. The next one that we looked at, Jennifer looked at this for us. It was 382, and it was to just increase the age. I think we had a favorable response to this. Increase the age of that if a teen is molested right now, in order to have an aggravated child molestation charge brought against the perpetrator, has to be a child who is 13 or under. This legislation sought to increase that to 14 or under, but it did not pass. The next legislation is 338. This is really the one that we were watching. That got a question? Okay. Tori read this, very supportive of it. This extends Medicaid coverage for new moms from 6 months to 12 months. It passed. It is awaiting the governor's signature. We go to House Bill 1234. This is the legislation that the DHS was seeking. It was really the only legislation that we, I think, really had a vested interest in. It was something that we helped draft. It looked like it was going to pass. And then at the end, some things, a lot of things got assigned to a committee for further review, and they never came back. The time ran out to bring them back up for vote. So long story short, this did not pass. This would have allowed any child that was in care, even if they're over 18, if they're receiving extended services, that they could have access to an attorney. I would imagine, I'm guessing that we'll try to get this passed again next year. It'll have a different bill number, but I imagine we'll try to get this again. And then the lower priority legislation is, and I find just this interesting, maybe from a not a work-related perspective, but just in a how things work related. So Senate Bill 0374, lots of plans were underway to form this this Georgia Data Analytics Center, and it would establish that center as an agent of all of the executive state agencies, DHS, DBHDD, Department of Education, and it really allows for streamlining multiple data requests. We often, when I was in communications office, we would get data requests about graduation rates for youth in care, or different things that we would not be able really to provide because we don't track it in the same way the Department of Education tracks graduation rates. We have some client-specific data, but we wouldn't have aggregate data. And so this legislation, it looked like it was going to sail through. Then some language was inserted right toward the end, some substitute language. The House insisted that the language that was substituted be adopted. The Senate insisted on either the original language or some substitute language. Anyway, it died. It didn't make it. On the last day, both insisted and couldn't come to terms with the amended language, and it didn't pass. And then this is a higher priority legislation that was left over from 2021. This would have been the second cycle. So they pulled it from vote last year, assigned it to a committee to be studied, brought it back this year to have another go at it. Passed the House. It was recommended to pass by the Senate Judiciary Committee, which is where the committee, part of the committee that was studying it, and it ended up remaining in Senate rules and did not make it out of that group and did not pass. This is the Raise the Age bill. We talked about it some last year. It raises the age of youth who are should be tried in juvenile court to include children up to age 18, not for serious offenses, but for minor offenses, that they be tried in the court of juvenile court and not regular court. And it's important, because you introduce a 17-year-old to a population who may be, a little more hardened and incarcerated. And so to be tried in juvenile court allows for rehabilitation, and also the opportunity that perhaps may not be on the youth's record forever. But it did not pass. I'm guessing we'll see this again. I think there's some real strong feelings about it. And then finally, we didn't track this, but I followed what the Retirees Association was tracking, because somewhere many years ago, some legislation stated that retirees are prohibited from receiving a cost of living adjustment. And so this was something that was talked about last year. There was a lot of work done by the Retirees Association to try to get that statement removed from the the legislation to say that it is no longer prohibited. And then there would be a greater chance for retirees in the regular retiree system to receive a regular cost of living adjustment like teachers do. And so I think some progress was made on that, but bigger than that is what I wanted you to see here is this was legislation that started off really being about that COLA increase and ended up including a lot of information that will impact people who retire on or before July 1st and how things will be handled after July 1st. When I told you about the accrued leave and it would be paid by the retiree system instead of the division, it's in here. And this is what happens is that just because a bill says something when it starts, by the time it ends, it can have very different language and take a very different direction. And so this passed, and it's not really anything controversial. I don't know where the language to prohibit a COLA, that was one of the things I was trying to track down after I finished the things that directly related us, and I didn't get to it. So I will learn about that and we'll share it at our next meeting, but it doesn't directly apply to us right now as we do this work. And so I included that because we tracked it, and I also thought it was a great example of how the language can look so different at the end of the session than it did to start with. So final thoughts are that it's projected most of the legislation will be signed by the governor, the legislation that passed by mid-May. The options are sign, veto, or just don't sign legislation that passed, and therefore it just doesn't go into effect. It just kind of dies. I don't get the impression that any of the things that we're looking at that will happen. And I don't think that happens a lot, but those are the options. In my opinion, this year's activity was really about what was included in the budget for DHS. And then of course, DBHDD had a really big year. And then looking ahead, we'll get started again on January 9th, 2023 with a whole new 2-year cycle. Any questions? I know I threw a lot of information at you. I tried to tell it as a story as much as I could, but y'all have this. And also, if you ever had the link to the report that I was doing weekly up until crossover day when we knew what we were tracking, that link is also updated. So you can always access that link if you can't find this piece of paper, or you can ask me for it.
Yes. Excellent job.
Thanks. It's fun.
Welcome. Excellent. Let's see. Stop share. There we go. All right. So we have a good group today. Look at all the people. Yay. So let's talk about our upcoming spring meeting we have on May the 2nd and 3rd at Lake Lanier Islands. So if you haven't registered and reserved your room, please do so. It's quickly approaching.
Y'all, we have almost 75 people registered for that. Now, about half are the North Child Welfare admins who will kind of have their own track but be joining us for stuff. But we've had great response to that. So super exciting.
Wonderful. That's awesome. And I wanted to kind of throw this out to you guys. Our normal legislative committee meeting is always the first Wednesday of every month at 1 p.m. So we've had to kind of adjust that because of sessions and different things. So May's meeting actually falls the day after we finish the spring conference or the spring training meeting. So my thought process would be, since we don't really know if the governor's going to sign, veto, or not sign until around mid-May. What do you guys think about just foregoing the May meeting, since we've had one now, we've got an update of what's going on. We'll be together at the conference. We can see each other then, have a quick, get together if we want to. But then we really don't have anything to discuss or talk about until we know what's made it through. So what do y'all say that we skip the May committee meeting and come back June 1st for a catch-all? Would that be agreeable with everybody? Thumbs up, clap, hearts, something, vote. Oh, hey, Gretchen. Thumbs up. That good with everybody? Okay. All right. Okay. So we'll do that. I'll send out a message about that and send a calendar invitation. I don't think there's anything else. We mainly wanted to cover the legislation progression, which was the most important thing of what we do, and talk about the spring meeting. Gretchen, is there anything that you want to add or say, or Miss Susan or anybody else? We'll open the floor up for any comments, feedback, suggestions, because we're going to have some down months. So, after June, we got July, August, September, possibly October before we start gearing up for the next session. So do y'all want to see some trainings? What kind of things do you guys want to do in our committee meeting? So if you'll email me. Oh, go ahead, Susan.
Well, I was going to mention, I'm seeing Andrew's name on here.
Yes.
So, GPHSA will be hosting the road show. It's called DHS on the Road Tour. We go to Rome first, and we are having the legislators and local leaders are invited to a coffee with the commissioner over at Restoration Rome on Wednesday morning. Now, staff are invited to the same thing on Monday morning, but I think if you're on the legislative committee, then to come to that legislative breakfast or coffee on Wednesday morning is a great opportunity. And so if you're on this call and you would like to attend that coffee on Wednesday, I would love for you to attend it. If you are in the region that has Rome, if you have some other business to do in Rome while you were there, then it is a reimbursable mileage. If you just come for the coffee because it's not an official business type event, then it's not reimbursable. So I understand if you don't want to do that because gas is crazy expensive. But yes, Floyd is in Region 3. I'm sorry, I said Region 1, didn't I? Man, I do that all the time. Sorry. Thank you.
I didn't even catch that. Thank you, Jennifer. I didn't even catch that.
Yeah. So
Hey, Susan, what is that date? Wednesday, what date?
April the 27th. It's 2 weeks from today. And there's a link that I need to send you to register. So reach out to me at mail@gphsa.org and I'll send you the link to register. Not opening it up to everybody because it's really for legislators, but if you're on the legislative committee, I think that is a natural fit and I think it will be great for you to come over. And also open to everybody in the Rome area or anywhere is Rhonda and I are going to try to throw together a little get together one of the nights, that Monday or Tuesday night in that area. We're just going to pick somewhere and send it out to our members in that area and say, hey, if you want to meet up after work, just to get together and just say hey to each other. Probably Tuesday night is when we would do that. So be on the lookout for that. No link to register for that. It is just let's just get together and
awesome, great stuff. Thank you.
What time is the coffee?
9 to 10:30. And then there is a tour of Restoration Rome that you're welcome to go on. Chairman Dempsey and Commissioner Rose will be touring. And then if other people want to join them, they can. On the registration link, there is a place to check if you want to do the tour as well. And then it'll be wrapped up by noon.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you for that. Gretchen, did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
No, thanks. I was just typing in the chat to tell you I had a 1:45 hearing to hop off on.
Okay.
To hop off this for, but I do want to thank you for thinking of us, and would ask that you do continue to keep us in your prayers. Thank you all.
Sure will. Sure will. All right. Take care.
Okay.
All right. Anyone else before we close out? Well, thank you for spending your 45 minutes with us on everybody's busy. I know it's a short week, a holiday week, and everybody's scrambling around trying to get things done before the weekend. So thanks again. We'll meet again on June 1st for legislative, but I hope to see you at Lake Lanier the first part of May. Thanks again. Thank you, Susan. I appreciate all that
Forward
you
to it.
do.
Y'all have a great rest of your day.
All
Thanks.
right. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.